The North American P-51 Mustang stands as one of the most legendary aircraft ever created. Fast and deadly, it became a symbol of Allied air power. During World War II, this iconic fighter not only changed the outcome of battles, but also redefined what was possible in aerial warfare. Yet, the Mustang's path to greatness was anything but straightforward. Its success was not the result of careful military planning. Rather, it was shaped by ambition, innovation, and a series of fortunate turns. Initially, the United States Army Air Forces had little interest in this aircraft. Even the British, who first placed orders for the Mustang, were unimpressed with its early performance. At the start, no one could have imagined that this plane would one day dominate the skies. Before America entered the war, Britain desperately needed modern fighters to strengthen its air defense. The British Purchasing Commission began acquiring American aircraft, including the Curtiss P-40, powered by Allison engines. However, the Curtiss-Wright Company could not meet the massive production demand. As an alternative, the British asked North American Aviation to build P-40s under license. But the company's president, James Dutch Kindleberger, had a bolder idea. Instead of copying an old design, he proposed creating an entirely new fighter. His engineers promised to design and build a prototype within only 4 months. An ambitious challenge. The new aircraft would use the same Allison V1710 engine as the P-40, but feature far better aerodynamics. North American's engineers studied existing designs, borrowed technical data, and developed an innovative airframe that reduced drag while increasing speed. When the first prototype was completed, the British gave the new plane a name, Mustang, inspired by the wild horses of the American West. However, in their rush to meet deadlines, the engineers chose a non-turbocharged version of the Allison engine. This decision came with a cost. At altitudes above 15,000 feet, engine power dropped dramatically, affecting the aircraft's effectiveness in high-altitude combat. When the Royal Air Force tested the first Mustangs, they praised its speed and agility at low levels, but soon discovered its weakness in high-altitude dogfights. As a result, the RAF decided not to use the Mustang as a frontline fighter. Instead, it was assigned to reconnaissance and ground attack missions, replacing outdated aircraft like the Westland Lysander. Despite its early limitations, the Mustang quickly proved its value. In tactical reconnaissance roles, it provided vital intelligence. During the Dieppe raid in August 1942, Mustangs gathered crucial information about enemy movements, proving their worth in combat. When the United States joined the war after Pearl Harbor, 57 Mustangs originally destined for Britain were redirected to American forces. Initially, they too used it mainly for reconnaissance, but engineers saw potential far beyond that. Soon, the Mustang was modified into a dive bomber known as the A-36 Apache. This version carried bombs and had dive brakes for controlled steep descents. It was deployed to North Africa and China, where it performed well, though dive bombing soon fell out of favor. Meanwhile, British test pilots realized that the Mustang could become a true high-altitude fighter if paired with a better engine. That engine was the Rolls-Royce Merlin, famous for powering the Spitfire. When a Mustang was fitted with a Merlin engine, the results were extraordinary. The transformation was so significant that Rolls-Royce partnered with the Packard Motor Company in the United States to mass-produce Merlin engines. The first Merlin-powered Mustang took flight in late 1942, and it was a game-changer. The aircraft could now outperform most fighters at high altitude and had a far greater operational range. This upgrade marked a turning point. The Mustang, once dismissed, was now ready to prove itself as one of the greatest fighters of the war. By 1943, the United States faced a critical challenge. Its heavy bombers like the B-17 Flying Fortress were suffering devastating losses during missions over Germany. Without long-range escort fighters, bombers were vulnerable to relentless Luftwaffe attacks once they flew beyond the range of their escorts. The available fighters, the British Spitfire, the Lockheed P-38 Lightning, and the Republic P-47 Thunderbolt each had strengths, but also major limitations. The Spitfire was agile, but lacked range. The P-38 had long range, but was scarce, because many were deployed in the Pacific. The P-47 was powerful, but consumed fuel at an alarming rate. The Army Air Forces needed a fighter that could go the distance, protect bombers deep into enemy territory, and still fight effectively. The Merlin-powered Mustang was the perfect candidate. Engineers at Wright Field in Ohio began modifying the P-51 to extend its range even further. They added internal fuselage tanks and underwing drop tanks, giving it unmatched endurance. These upgrades, combined with the fuel efficiency of the Merlin engine, allowed the Mustang to escort bombers on missions previously thought impossible. Yet despite its clear potential, military politics slowed its deployment. Early P-51Bs were initially assigned to the 9th Air Force for tactical support, not strategic escort missions. However, mounting bomber losses forced the High Command to reconsider. One man played a crucial role in this transition: Lieutenant Colonel Donald Blakesley, an experienced pilot who had flown with the RAF and earned a fierce reputation in combat. Blakesley quickly recognized the Mustang's superiority. Unlike the fuel-hungry P-47, the Mustang could stay with the bombers all the way to the target and back. By late 1943, the Mustang was finally reassigned to escort duties under the 8th Air Force. When it entered combat, the difference was immediate. Mustang pilots could now engage German fighters far beyond the range of previous escorts, forcing the Luftwaffe into defensive battles. Engineers continued refining the design, adding an 85-gallon fuselage fuel tank and wing-mounted drop tanks. Though these modifications caused stability issues during combat maneuvers, pilots adapted by managing fuel levels carefully. The Mustang's arrival could not have come at a better time. The Luftwaffe was already struggling due to fuel shortages, Soviet advances cutting off resources, and Allied bombing campaigns crippling Germany's industry. Wow! With Mustangs leading the charge, the balance of air power shifted permanently in the Allies' favor. As 1944 approached, the Mustang had evolved from an overlooked aircraft into a game-changing weapon. Its long-range, lethal firepower and unmatched agility would soon dominate the skies over Europe. When P-51 squadrons became fully operational, they transformed the air war over Europe. For the first time, bombers had fighter protection from takeoff to target and back. The Luftwaffe could no longer rely on ambushing unescorted bombers. Instead, they now faced relentless Mustang pilots who hunted them down aggressively. American fighter tactics also evolved. The Allies adopted offensive strategies, authorizing pilots to strike not only enemy aircraft but also airfields, destroying German planes on the ground before they could even take off. The Mustang's impact was dramatic. Luftwaffe lost his sword, and German pilots increasingly avoided direct confrontation. Even the formidable Focke-Wulf FW-190 and Messerschmitt Bf-109 found themselves outmatched. Despite the Mustang's dominance, other fighters continued to play key roles. The P-47 Thunderbolt remained a fearsome opponent, excelling in ground attack missions due to its rugged radial engine. The P-38 Lightning continued operating in long-range roles, particularly in the Pacific. Yet, the P-51 became the face of Allied air superiority. The statistics were staggering. Fighter groups flying Mustangs achieved hundreds of aerial victories, escorting bombers safely through some of the most dangerous skies in the world. Units like the 4th and 357th Fighter Groups racked up impressive kill counts, while the famed 56th Fighter Group flying P-47s proved that the Mustang was not the only star in the sky. Beyond Europe, the Mustang's influence spread to other theaters. In the Mediterranean, it replaced older aircraft, strengthening Allied air power. In the China-Burmindia theater, Mustangs supported long-range missions, striking airfields and disrupting enemy supply lines. One of the most remarkable moments came when Captain William Shomo, flying an F-6D reconnaissance Mustang, and his wingman encountered a formation of 13 Japanese aircraft. Against overwhelming odds, they engaged and shot down 11 enemy planes in a single mission, earning Shomo the Medal of Honor. As the war intensified, the Mustang became the primary escort fighter for the 8th Air Force, while also supporting ground operations under the 9th Air Force. It played a critical role in the lead-up to D-Day and the subsequent push across Europe. Even in the freezing conditions of the winter of 1944–45, during the Battle of the Bulge, the Mustang proved its worth, helping the Allies regain control of the skies, though its liquid-cooled engine made it more vulnerable to ground fire. Pilots used its speed and maneuverability to minimize risks. By the time the Allies prepared for the final assault on Germany, the P-51 Mustang had secured its place as the dominant fighter of the European theater. While the Mustang conquered the skies over Europe, its role in the Pacific grew steadily. Its long range made it ideal for escorting B-29 Superfortress bombers on missions against Japan. Operating from newly captured islands like Iwo Jima, Mustangs provided vital protection during raids deep into enemy territory. In China and Burma, Mustangs disrupted Japanese logistics, destroyed airfields, and supported British ground operations. Their success was so significant that older aircraft were phased out in favor of the P-51. Among the most famous Mustang units were the Tuskegee Airmen, the 332nd Fighter Group, composed of African-American pilots. They became legendary for their bomber escort missions, earning a reputation for exceptional skill and bravery. Their distinctive red-tailed Mustangs became a symbol of both combat excellence and the breaking of racial barriers in the military. Even as the war drew to a close, the Mustang continued to innovate. North American aviation developed the F-8 to twin Mustang, a radical design featuring two fuselages connected by a shared wing and tail. It allowed for two pilots and longer missions, but the war ended before it could make a significant impact. When World War II ended, the P-51 story did not end with it. The aircraft remained in service for years, fighting in conflicts like the Korean War and serving in air forces worldwide. Its combination of speed, range, and firepower made it one of the most versatile fighters ever built. The Mustang became more than just a plane. It was a symbol of technological brilliance, strategic necessity, and the courage of the pilots who flew it. From the low-level reconnaissance missions over France to the high-altitude dogfights over Germany, the Mustang proved itself time and again. Its legacy lives on in aviation history, air shows, and the hearts of those who remember its role in changing the course of the war. The P-51 Mustang was not just a fighter, was the ultimate guardian of the skies. The aircraft that helped bring victory to the Allies.